Where's this ideal that you were removed from society?
One specific situation when I was still in the throes of it was at the worst situation. It led to me being at a Starbucks and indoors. And I, at that moment, looked around and I was like, I have to go. Like, I'm not allowed to be here. Like, just the environment. I was like, I knew that I was not worthy of that space and I needed to be elsewhere as quickly as possible.
He said, I was looking for a Black therapist because my last therapist I felt was scared of me. As I started telling about my past, I saw her withdrawal. And every time I came in, I felt the energy that she was scared. I think mistakes are going to be inevitable, right? We're going to have mistakes, but mistakes are learning experiences. They're not failure. Right. Failure is not trying anymore, right?
So on that trip, which was May 17th, 2017, I lost the brakes on the way into the parking lot where his brother was, and he, Mason, did not survive.
Hey everyone, welcome to Conversations with New Beginnings. My name is Teray and I'm so glad that you're here. This podcast is about meaningful conversations that uplift, empower, and inspire transformation. Before we begin, please help us by taking a quick pre-survey. Your perspective helps us shape conversations that truly uplift, empower, and inspire transformation. Also, wait till the end for another quick message from me. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome back to Conversations with New Beginnings by New Beginnings Family Services, a podcast created to uplift, empower, and transform. Today's conversation brings a powerful and often unheard perspective. We're joined by Jason O'Connor, a peer support specialist who works within the justice system, one with lived experience and who understands the journey from both sides. His work is grounded in connection, second chances, and meeting people where they are because he's been there himself. His story is one of growth, accountability, and purpose. It's about what happens when lived experience becomes a bridge, not a barrier, and how that can change lives, even his own. Let's get into this conversation.
How do we destigmatize substance use? Like, how do we put the humanity back in individuals with lived experience? And you were really amazing. We had an amazing conversation last week. But let's talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about that. What do one of the things that really hit home with me is about returning back to society. Mm-hmm. But even just today, as we were talking, you talked about, being seen, being present. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's the first time I've ever done one of these. It's kind of nice. So what we were talking about earlier was I remember going into detox specifically, and there was like I said, a clear divide between the folks that looked like they were just trying to keep the dogs in the kennel, mm-hmm. and those that could see me, could see us, could see a person. They were the people that never had any time.
Yeah.
Because they were.
Imagine,
they were
right? Yeah.
Right. Because the other ones were, I'm going to handle what I need to handle over on my side, and you can wait for your food. Like, we'll be good. But what came to mind while you were talking just now really was, and I haven't said this to you yet, to bring the humanity back is, to me, ask the person what they need and listen to them when they tell you. Because quite often a person without the lived experience who's in a position where they're helping somebody who's struggling at the time or who just really isn't where they want to be, they'll get the information. Like, I would like to be in Maryland because my family lives there.
Right. But I'm so sorry.
Sure.
You bring up something though, because that's intentional. To be able to ask a individual, in the midst of their intake, what is it that you really need? So many times in the midst between intake and shuffling, to the papers and and getting the process, it's all about this is what we provide here, mm-hmm. right? And these are the rules. But how often did you have someone just sit back and say, what do you need, Jason?
No, I found what I needed. My first counselor, when I was in IOP after detox would respond to information that had happened long before. Like 10 minutes later, I've spoken through all these things, and she would go back to something from the very beginning as if I had said nothing. And I'm like, you were doing your notes. You didn't listen to me at all. And so I just found what I needed. I figured out through networking and through friends how to get into, so the sober living thing was, it was, truthfully, it was the greatest decision I could have made at that time. It put me in a place where recovery was 24 hours a day. No matter what, when I came home, around people in recovery, get up in the morning, around people, go to work. I worked with a guy from recovery, you know what I mean? So worked for him. So it was that constant reminder that like, hey, these are your goals. This is what you're working towards. It never turned off. But the literature, like there was just the one piece that really stood out, really stuck out, really bothered me. In the intake paperwork, it had all this wonderful flowery language about all the things and said, as you reintegrate into society. And I was like, when did I leave? Because from my perspective, I'm not in prison. Like, this is a sober living house. You're here to help. You're not here to.
And when did you, where's this ideal that you were removed from society because of choices, right? Individuals with lived experiences, substance use doesn't remove individuals from society.
Though we do feel that way a lot of times. One specific situation when I was still in the throes of it was at the worst situation, put me in it led to me being at a Starbucks and indoors. And I, at that moment, looked around and I was like, I have to go. Like, I'm not allowed to be here. Like, nobody looked at, I mean, yes, people looked at me funny, but it was just the environment. I was like, I knew that I was not worthy of that space and I needed to be elsewhere as quickly as possible.
And is that because of the fact of being, did you feel like people were judging you? Did you feel like what made you even connect that I did not belong here?
I can give you the physical things and I can give you the emotional things after.
Of course.
So I had one outfit that I wore every day. And that was all I had. Like, that was what I wore. I washed it in a creek one time. Like, boots that I'd had for like 10 years or more had been, flopping around talking to you when you walk. And I could see these other folks that had their own vehicles and their clean appearance and everything. And I remembered being that. And I remembered the way that I thought at that time. And I remembered why I thought that way is because that's what we're taught from the very beginning. Even that don't do drugs,
Right. Yeah.
Even those, the best of intentions, they paint the person in addiction as morally deficient.
Yeah.
As less than. And in that moment, I knew I was less than. I didn't have to ask. I knew.
And that was because of the way we were raised, right? Like, that was because, of course, if you do drugs, then you're not efficient in society. You're not, you're not.
If you're not a contributing member.
Exactly. But the reality is that you've never left society. Maybe we're a subset, right? Maybe it's I don't even know is it even safe to say there's a subset? We're still a part. You're still people, human beings that need to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, to be given a chance, right? And it's not like any of these individuals started there. It's hard to believe that there was a baby that was born in Tent City, or you know what I mean, or that was born and was like, "Oh, I'm
This
just
is where
using."
I want to be.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody chooses to be an addict, but would choose to do things that addicts do. There's the responsibility piece that I do. Like, I have to take the responsibility for the decisions that I made, in spite of the systemic, in spite of societal, in spite of the influences that were around. But I can't ignore the fact that those existed as well. Working in this, I'll tell you what, this has to get cut out. It has to get cut out. But there was a young man who, the first time I spoke to him, this is with my current position, and he's graduated and he's doing great. The first time I spoke to him was on the phone, and I was talking to him like he knew all the things. And I could tell, I was like, this is a little bit fast for him. So I slowed down, and I asked him what he needed. I picked him up that afternoon, took him to the pharmacy, brought him home. From then on, anytime he needed anything, I'd work with him. He was the most polite, kindest person. I knew what his charges were, but that was not him. He was admonished by a provider he asked me to come in for an appointment with him, because that was something that we do a lot. Like if somebody's like, hey, I got to talk to a psychiatrist today, and I really would feel better if I had somebody with me. They say it in many, many different ways, but I know what they're saying. So, and they were trying to convince him that he needed his medication by injection. He said, oh, I don't want to do that. And he was admonished by the provider and by one of the people that supervised him with the court. And I said, he advocated for himself. Like, I'm unbelievably proud of him for that. He knew what he felt comfortable with and what he didn't. And he communicated that to you in an effective and polite manner. I will never forget this young man. He is.
Wow.
I learned that, trying to stay as vague as possible, a crisis in Haiti was what caused him to have to move here as a small child, and nothing had gone well before or since.
Right.
And everybody put him in that little box of this young black male who is angry and dangerous, and he's got trauma. He had trauma, and he sometimes hallucinated because of the trauma. That's what I mean when I say people don't listen. Like, I need help with this.
Yes.
They're not understanding, especially when it's a young black male. They're not understanding.
You bring up such an amazing point, because there's so many times I have clients that come in here, and one in particular, he came out of the inner city, and he came here because he felt that he said, I was looking for a black therapist because my last therapist I felt was scared of me. He says, I felt like I could not be truthful with her about what I was going through and what I've done. As I started telling about my past, I saw her withdraw. And every time I came in, I felt the energy that she was scared. And so he wanted to come to where he could have a place to where he could put it all out, and we talk about that. And he said what was his tipping point was when he really told her that he wanted to be a motivational speaker. And he said, I saw her laugh. And he says, and I knew then. He said, well, ma'am, I tell you, I wanted to cuss. He was like, but I didn't cuss. I just left. And he says, and I went and looked for a therapist that I could talk to. And he came here. And I loved it. The fact that he, even with the co-occurring issues that he had, and I mean, they were severe, but he went to school.
Yeah.
He was going because his ideal is that, and who gets to tell him no?
That brings me to the two really important points that I emphasize all the time. One is the unconditional positive regard. We talk about that in all the schools and everything.
Yes.
And also the dignity of risk. If somebody wants to be an astronaut and they're currently living outdoors and on cocaine or whatever, say, okay, how do we get to be an astronaut?
Yes, and how do we use that?
I don't know if you can't do it or not, but I know there's steps to get there. You get the dignity of being able to fail and learn the lesson from the failure.
Yes.
It's not for me to decide or laugh at that.
And if I could strike out failure, because I think failure is not trying, stopping. I think what we associate with I think mistakes are going to be inevitable, right? We're going to have mistakes, but mistakes are learning experiences. They're not failure. Failure is not trying anymore, right?
And we were talking about on the phone the other day that language is super important, and that's one of those. That's one of those times. I agree with you, and I did use the word, I think, but yeah, I
No,
agree with you
I think it's
completely.
fair. But I mean, because we've been conditioned, right? Even and it's interesting. I was talking to someone the other day. I'm like, where did we associate failure? When did we start to learn what was failure to you? And this individual was talking about, well, when I was all I failed. I think she said she failed second grade, but you returned back to second grade. So there were things you didn't fail it. You did not get through second grade, right?
Right,
You got through second grade. You might not have been able to pass, but failure wasn't it.
right.
You just didn't learn what you needed to learn. And I think we have to but she kept that mindset of failure from second grade. And here she is in her 30s and 40s, and you're still looking through the views of that, what, second grade, you're in what, eighth grade? I mean, 7 years
7,
old?
8, yeah.
Yeah, 7 years old. You still had the mindset of failure based off of your experience at 7 and 8. We have to mature that.
And it's funny because I speak to my therapist on a regular basis about things that happened in first and second grade because it was really what a big piece of the catalyst that took me to the point where I needed something else to feel other than me, which was what the drugs turned into was
Right.
anything to be different than what this is. And oh gosh, it was so vivid. Like if my work wasn't done as quickly as everyone else, my second grade or first grade teacher would have everybody in the class turn around and point like this. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
and
And what did that reinforce?
that I was deficient and that there was something wrong with me and that everyone knew and that I couldn't hide from the fact that I don't belong. I just don't belong. We've rewired some things. We've been working on that.
Good. But that's important. So, could we share a little bit of that? Because I
Sure.
think that's what's important. Is that how do we start to rewire some of these thought processes? It's kind of like going back to what I was saying. You cannot keep holding on to a narrative or a definition that you formulated as an 7 or 8 year old, or based off the experience that you had or whatever. You can't hold on to that at 30 and 40 and think that that still holds weight. We have to go back and redefine these definitions.
Man. So I was 45 when I got diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive type. The unseen type because you just don't do your work.
Exactly.
You're not causing any problems. You just don't do what you need to do. Especially back then. There's so much more understanding now.
Right.
I received that diagnosis because I was having some troubles with my employer. My supervisor had expectations that she did not feel that I could meet, and I did not feel that I could comprehend what the expectation was. Like we're just at odds on that. I was not losing this job. Like I am not going like anywhere. Like this is where I'm going to be. So
Right. Right.
that experience, she represented all of those people in all of that time, and I spent 6 months as that small child again, who just could not, would not, might as well give up. Like, and I was also fighting that other piece with, where it's like, no, you have evidence, you have proof that you're better than this.
Right.
And so those two things were just warring for a good 6 months. I was in tears on a regular basis. I was that child again in moments. And I think that reminding the child that there's no such thing as a deficient human being. How do you hear this? How does this make sense to you? Not like what makes sense to you. How does this thing how do you read this? And I, as the adult with all of the experience, can look at that and say, okay, they hear this, and this, and now I'm a little closer to how to communicating with you properly. That's what I have to learn, is how to communicate with the child properly, not the other way around. They have
Yes.
they have a snapshot that's like a little square. They only have so many experiences to draw from to be able to tell you what they want or what they need, or I need to translate. I need to learn how to do that, which is, incidentally, in peer work, one of the biggest pieces is because I have the clinical language and I have the peer language.
Yes.
And so when the clinical people tell the client that they need to do X, Y, and Z, or I say, oh, what they mean is, and a lot of times I'll get, oh man, I ain't doing that. Okay, what's another option? And they'll give me another option, and I'll say, okay, don't worry about them. I'll get you referred, because I'll refer them to somewhere that they feel more comfortable with. They'll tell them to go somewhere that's outside of their area. They don't, they can't take a bus, they can't walk, they can't, whatever. Or I remember this experience there, and I ain't going back there. Okay, we'll go to this one instead. And they listen to me, because
You're that bridge between
I
the
say,
two.
hey, they have a negative association with that building because of a traumatic experience. Da 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 da. And yeah, I can explain that to them, and say, don't worry about it. I'll talk to them. I'll tell them, well, you want to go to Brandywine instead of Chorus,
Right.
just to use some, because I'm having trouble coming up with ways to say it without using the names.
I get it, and we'll work through it. Sure. I really love this. You are taking your lived experience to help others navigate through their lived experience in way of just making sure that they have what you didn't, that you had to learn to acquire, or that you had to advocate for. One, it's powerful, and I commend you for that, because we need people that are willing to do that translation. But at the same time, you're helping those individuals maybe even deal with their little child, their inner child, to be able to say, you're safe here. Let's talk. And I understand you're being seen, and not just being herded from one task to the other.
Right. And that goes back to something that I listen to motivational speakers on the, philosophy and all these kind of things, like all the time. Something that I heard, and I don't even remember who it was that said it, was be the person that you needed when you were a child, right? And so in school, I've learned some things that are kind of similar to that. And in my own therapy, I've learned some things, like I'm learning how to be the person that I needed, because those moments still exist where I need that person.
Yes.
So that translates also into recovery. A lot of the folks that I deal with on a daily basis, I'm trying to be the person that I needed for them when I was in active addiction, when I was living outdoors, when I was at that time. You know what I mean? Like, I know what I needed at that time. 99% of the time, it was just somebody to do what I'm asking. You know what I mean? Just listen to what I'm saying to you and help me get there.
And I like that. And I like the fact that you clarified that, because, someone would take that, especially individuals that are new into the field, would take that and say, okay, I am doing that by giving them these resources, because in my mind, these are the things they need. If I take you back to the Starbucks experience, somebody might see you, oh, you need clothes, right? Let me give you the clothes. No, I don't need the clothes. Hear me what I need. Don't assume by looking at me that you think that you know what I need. Listen to what I'm saying. Ask the questions. See me and hear me, and validate the fact that I'm telling you, I know what I need. I mean, how many people have you really encountered in your field that don't really know what they need? Do you feel like, or for me, I always feel like the life has not been safe enough for them to be able to even envision articulating what they need. And so that, for me as a therapist, I feel like I need to take some time to sit, instead of rush to judgment. I'd rather sit and and work with you and explore with you and to make sure that you are in a safe space mentally, but environmentally, so that you can now start to dream. And it goes to, and that's what I would say, like I want you to start dreaming again. I want you to start writing your own story. And if everything was picture perfect, what would you want? Like, I tried to get them, prompting them. I don't want to take that responsibility of telling them what they need. I want them to be able to figure that out for themselves, right?
Yeah. Even in peer work, we still talk about like the internal motivation versus, external. Folks will talk about, well, I need to be there for my daughter. I need to be there. My mom has blah blah blah, and I just need to give her. Okay, wait. And one of the things I like to do is like just create the picture. I was like, what is? So that's a whole other person, right? Usually they're like, yeah, because that ain't what this is. I'm like, well, what is that person? What do they do? What's their job? Where do they live? And we do a whole visual experience of like the yard, the house, like whatever aspect they choose to do. Well, how does that person keep those things? And then I was like, okay, here's the thing: you are that person. You don't have those things yet. Like, so just behave as if you are that person now.
And you're working towards.
They're just not here yet. And that does not work 100% of the time. People will
Right.
be like, eh. But when it does, I find that folks come back and say thank you with that one, just because it helps paint a picture. Like, I need to envision what I'm going towards. And like you were saying a minute ago, most of the time, it's not that people don't know what they need or want; they don't know how to communicate it. So,
Or it's so buried in all the other
mhm.
trauma or stuff,
They've
right?
come to believe that what they need is what people keep telling them they have to do. It's like, well, hold on. I mean, maybe
I need to
not.
parent my child. I need, I need a job. But and not saying that you don't need to do those
Hmm.
things, but before we ever get there, what do we need for ourselves?
Right.
But we can use those things, right, as
Motivators,
motivation,
right?
right? And so I love where we're going with this, but I want to go back to you
Okay.
because you're amazing, right?
Oh,
And you've got
thanks.
an amazing and powerful story, and I love that you have an amazing perspective on your journey and how what it took for you to get from point A to point B, right?
Hmm.
Because you still got a lot of life to live.
I tell people all the time, I feel like I'm still in early recovery because I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon, even though it's been almost 10 years.
So it's been 10 years. Congratulations.
9 and change.
9 and change.
Yeah.
We're going to claim 10 because it will be here soon, right? But how did you get to that place from the Starbucks guy to I'm not feeling like I belong here or I don't deserve to be at a Starbucks at a public area? How did you get from there to where you are now, where you are are seeing other individuals and tapping into their needs? What was that journey like? Can you, I mean, because I always think we're overcomer by our testimony, but I think the testimony of others really can be powerful and impacting in someone else's life.
This might be a little tough, but I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
While homeless, while on substances and doing the things that we did, my youngest son was with us for basically the entire from as early as he could remember, for sure. My older kids were taken away by their maternal grandparents, and they moved him to Tennessee without telling anybody. They just left. So we had this one child with us. I spent a lot of time where she would not be so well and she would go to jail, trying to find somewhere where he and I could live together, and that just didn't exist in a supportive manner. Mom would let me come for a little while there, but I needed something more something to help me separate just a bit more. And that didn't exist for a male with a child anywhere. And I bring that up for a reason. I did have to make the decision to go into sober living without him, and he went to his maternal great-grandmother's house while I was trying to get things together. I have real quick, I have a Spider-Man washcloth because I told him, it's like, dude, listen, I'm going to go into a different house. I'm going to be there for a while, and I'm going to come up here to see you. But so he, in his mind, I was moving away. And he went and he grabbed this Spider-Man washcloth. He goes, here, for you to remember me. And buddy, I'm coming. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I was like, so I still have that. In sober living, I had the opportunity to be selfish.
Yes.
And I didn't know, I don't know how else to say it.
But it's the truth. And we have to be, right? Recovery requires that.
Learn many of the manifestations of a codependency issue, and how that played out in my life, and how I did not want to go back to that situation, and how to maintain, because I knew I didn't want to go back to it, how to keep myself from going back to it. And it turned out to be 100% abstinence from that as well, from her. Mm-hmm. So over some time in the sober living house, I wound up, there was a day I'd never been able to really like take him to lunch and whatever. So I got off of work one day around 5 or so, met at a gas station, bought everybody dinner. You know, we ate. I bought him a little spiky ball that lights up and everything. And then rode back to the apartment where he was staying with his mother, to then take the car back to her oldest son. This is very convoluted, but all right. So on that trip, which was May 17th, 2017, I lost the brakes on the way into the parking lot where his brother was, and Mason, did not survive. And I can remember, this actually brings up something else that might be pertinent. I can remember being in the hospital, and the director of sober living came in. I had been off of maintenance for months, like quite a while. And she came in and said, we can get you Suboxone before you leave the hospital so that you... Why do I want to go through that all over again? Like, I was enraged. I wanted to throw her out of the room. Like, why would you want me to go through that all over again?
Exactly.
Ask what they want. Don't tell them what you're going to do. You know what I mean?
See where they are.
And what wound up happening after that was, I'm quiet. Like, and I don't mean like just a gentle voice. I stayed hidden because that was where I belonged my whole life, even into recovery. And that's not a good place to be because people don't know you if you don't speak up. There was one thing that was close, but nothing compared exactly to the way that I felt after he passed. The closest thing was coming into recovery because of the desperation and the empty and the...
Right.
So I did the same things that I did when I first came into recovery all over again, except I spoke up a lot. People who I'd been looking at 3 to 5 times a week introduced themselves to me because they didn't know who I was because I'd never spoken up. And at some point in that process, I felt like people could see me now. And I think it gave folks faith that with this amount of time after, I haven't gone completely off the rails. I haven't withdrawn. I haven't relapsed. I haven't done, like, I think they started to have a little bit of faith that maybe I would still be here in a year if they were to give me the opportunity that I've been asking for.
Right.
As far as getting into the field, working with recovering addicts. And the house manager at the one where I had previously lived needed a nighttime recovery coach, and he hired me. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody else is this way. The ethics makes, I get more excited about the ethics parts of things because it's where most people are so deficient. I get more excited about learning about those things than I do anything else. And, I'd gotten to a point after like a year at the house where I was like, there's more. There's so much more to this. So I moved to an inpatient facility I forget what the position was called. They made a lot of stuff up. And I started to see these things that were like, they told us repeatedly, that's not how this goes. You know what? Yeah, this poor guy. I don't know how much time we got left, but it shouldn't be too
You
long.
go.
This is one prime example of people just not understanding how to talk to somebody. This guy, he lived in sober living with me for a short time. He went out, came back in, went out, came back, just repeatedly. And he came into the inpatient facility while I was working there. And he came out of a counseling session one time and was visibly upset. And that was not something I was used to seeing from him. Because even when he had a reason to be upset, you couldn't really read it. He was visibly upset. So I wound up having him in the van a little while later. And I was like, man, what's going on? Like, you seemed a little, he goes, just something that the counselor said to me. And I was like, well, what did he say? He said, well, like I got a wife and a daughter and my mama missed me. Like, if I was to die, like, somebody would miss me. Don't you want somebody to miss you? Like, nobody's going to miss you. And I was like, I am sorry that had to happen. I will not co-sign that statement. I will miss you. A lot of people will miss, like,
Yeah.
but don't make me miss you. Like, I want you here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who is this person to say,
That someone won't be missed.
or that they should value whether or not they would be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's imparting your value system on them first, but also, excuse me, yeah, I like him. He's a hell of a guy.
But that goes back to what you were talking about with, this whole societal thing that, are now, it sounds like there's individuals that want to deem your importance to society based off of your position or your perception of this individual, and not recognizing that he's an individual with lived experience that has something, whether it affects you or not, he affects someone else's life, right?
Yeah, I had met his mom. She actually did love him quite a bit.
I got to jump back. And I'm so sorry,
Do your
Jason,
thing.
but and I'm not trying to be a therapist right
You're good.
now, but but I do like to highlight, you discovered your voice. You discovered your voice through that tragedy or through that experience. You figured out a way to speak life,
Yeah.
not to yourself, to the world. You began to say, I'm here.
Another thing that happened sometime after that, because I bring him into all of the things that I do, like all of the things that I do as time goes by, as I progress in whatever field or education or whatever, he comes with.
Yes.
And we did a training one time, and I am quiet. I do have, and I know that I have a lot more within than people can see. And I did a one training, and one of the activities was each person's name would be on a piece of cardstock, and then the whole group would walk around, facilitators included, and they'd just write their impression of the person with a couple words, one sentence, whatever. And I got, I love this. Sorry, I didn't expect to actually get over this, but I come back to the table and I grab my paper, and somebody wrote "Quiet Storm." Yeah, like fuck you.
You're fine.
Somebody could see me. Like I've started to fade away and disappear into the. I was like, oh my God, somebody saw me. Like that's me, and I've kind of embraced that since. Like,
Yes.
it helps in keeping that in mind. Helps in telling my story, and because there's a lot underneath. It's just, you don't really, you're not going to hear it till you're in the middle.
Right. But I love this for you, and I love this for us, is that you know, it's a powerful story, but it's a powerful story that is continuing, right? It hasn't ended, right? And you're also helping other people discover their stories and tap into their own beliefs and believing, because this is all about empowering. It's about everything that's within you being able to, someone helping you to pull all of those things out. And sometimes it's us. We have to do it
Yeah.
ourselves, because as much as we can sit and say society needs to see us, or society needs to see and validate and put in, society needs to watch the words that we use and put the humanity back in people. But ultimately, it's my responsibility to put the humanity back in me, right? It's your responsibility to put it back, because once I start to do that, and I think I don't know when that happened for you, but I'm imagining from the hospital bed to somewhere along the line, you looked within and pulled that out, like you pulled you out.
Recovery changed completely. I never thought that I would be a person with a story that has the line, since the accident. But since the accident, recovery changed completely. In the beginning, it's kind of fun because it's like I'm around all these new people and they understand me, and I get to like feel the programs are set up for you to have, milestones that you feel accomplished in achieving, and you don't have to feel as grown up because you can feel grown up, but you're not really. I am
Yes.
very grateful for that time. I only had $100 and some to pay a week for rent.
Yes. Yes.
But the way that it changed was, how am I gonna be here a year from now? How am I gonna live with that, with this? Like, how does that work? And so when that changed, it wound up translating into how am I gonna live life just in general. And I don't know if I said this to you on the phone or not. The quote that I heard it from Stephen Colbert. I don't know if he wrote it or if it was his. I have no clue. But when he was a young child, he lost his father and brother in a plane crash. And he says that he is most grateful for the one thing he most wishes did not ever have to happen. And when I heard that, I felt that on a very deep level, because it was like, that's how I can tell people that's how I can communicate to people. Like,
Yeah.
if that didn't have to happen for me to get where I'm at, a million times I'd take it. But it did happen. So I'm very grateful for where I'm at, in spite.
Yeah. It takes me back to, I always say that good, bad, and indifferent, everything can work together for my good. The bad, the mountaintop experiences as well as the valley experiences, all of them can be there to help you and guide you and push and propel. And if we stay stuck in the whys, and I say stuck in the whys because it does stick, it makes you stuck. But, I try to push, and I had to push myself to the how. To the how can I carry this? How can I get past some of this? How can I overcome some of these ways of thinking? So I had to move from the whys to the hows, to focus on what does tomorrow, how am I going to get to tomorrow? How I'm going to get, and we always, and this is a recovery too. It's like sometimes it's minute by minute, one day at a time, but sometimes it's minute by minute. Sometimes it's, second by second. Am I good right at this moment?
It made me a lot more observant too. Because how am I going to make it till tomorrow? How am I going to make it till this evening? Till I had to watch, like, well, they did it. Like, how did they do it? And it did not always translate into something that worked for me.
Right.
But I could pick the pieces
And to make it
or
work.
figure out what did that do for them and figure out how I could translate that into something that would do the same thing for me, just a different thing.
So I'm going to give you this. This is yours. So, I like to say, if this was your world, if you had you had the control, the power to make the change, to make the difference, to help individuals with lived experience to get where they needed, what would be one thing that you would change in society, or change in, or even in the system that would help, get individuals to that experience, or just to give them a safer place, right? To be seen, to be validated. What would you do?
I'm very glad that you used the words that you used, because most of the people who are entering recovery early want to get to that place, but they need a physical ride in a vehicle to get there, and they just can't. So it's very easy to just give up if you can't. If I had the keys to all of the things, I would have a massive, comprehensive web of volunteers or whomever, doesn't matter, to get people into the cars and where they need to go. And sometimes that's the grocery store, and that's okay. Sometimes that's the dollar store because they got the cheap cigarettes, and that's okay because somebody with schizophrenia, like, that can be medicine for them.
Right, right.
And the 5-mile walk, anything can happen from there to there.
So these disparities, these inequities, these barriers that individuals face that we take for granted, right? That we can just figure it out, right? Or we can DoorDash and things like that, may not be accessible to them. So creating a little bit more accessible lifestyle for them, to where they
Absolutely.
have access to, even if it's just bottom line transportation.
That's more often than anything else the first thing that turns somebody off from being able to do any. How am I even going to get there? And then they'll just give it up, and that's why a lot of what I do is get people to the first thing, because once I get them in the car and we have our conversations, that web of people also needs to be willing to see the person and not the condition.
Oh my gosh, say that. I'm sorry. I know we're going, but no, that's power. You said they need to see
the person and not the condition. Now, I identify as an addict, and that's to remind me on a daily basis that there's small things I need to do to
But
keep
that's
myself here.
your,
And that's me.
yes.
I also have PTSD. I am not PTSD, right? Like, people that I
love
work
it.
with have schizoaffective, schizophrenia, the different types of, but that's not who they are.
Yes.
That's just a thing that they deal with. The gentleman I was telling you about earlier does deal with a schizoaffective disorder. Never once did I see him that way. And that's probably the biggest key, is like, get him in your car and take him a place and talk to the person sitting next to you, not
Not the addict, not
your perception of
right.
what they represent.
Yeah, not the bipolar person, right? It's right. Let's and I love that. Talk to the person that's sitting next to you. Talk to the person that's sitting across from your desk. Talk to the person who comes in for intake, the person that comes in. And just because we have actions and things that we do doesn't necessarily mean that that's who we are as an individual. Gosh, that's powerful. That's powerful. That would be a nice campaign with the with the transportation, right?
Yeah. I'm on another committee dealing with vets who are at risk, and that's the thing we're bringing up right now, is like, well, how do we help? We need a massive network of vehicles who are willing to go. And they were talking about trying to find volunteers that would do that. I'm like, it's got to start somewhere, though.
It's got to start somewhere. Yes. Well, thank you,
Thank you so
Jason.
much.
I so appreciate this and I love this and I want to hear more about your journey and hopefully this is not the last time we see each other.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey y'all, it's Teray again. Now you've heard the conversation. Now we want to hear from you. Take a moment to click the link in the description to our post survey so you can share what stood out to you, what challenged you, and what inspired you. Always remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember that one conversation can spark a new beginning. Bye.